Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar with Great Lakes Credit Union entitled Financial Planning for the Holidays. My name is Steph Ban. I'm a HUD Certified Housing and Financial Counselor at GLCU, and I'm joined by my colleague Violetta Flemmenbaum, a fellow HUD Certified Housing and Financial Counselor at GLCU. We're glad to have you with us today. To start out by introducing ourselves, I'll go first. My name is Steph Ban. I've been a housing counselor at GLCU for a little bit under 2 years. One of my particular areas of interest is disability rights and housing counseling. Because I myself have multiple disabilities, I want to make my counseling as accessible as it can possibly be. When we're not working remotely, which is still most of the time, I work out of our Crystal Lake office.
Hi, my name is Violetta Flemmenbaum, and I'm also a HUD Certified Housing Counselor. Like Steph, I've been at Great Lakes Credit Union for almost 2 years. And previous to Great Lakes, I did work for the state of Illinois in their mortgage assistance program. As Steph mentioned, we are working mostly remotely, but when I am in the office, I am out of our North Chicago, Illinois office. And I am bilingual. I do speak Spanish and English, so I can assist our Spanish speakers as well. Okay, so let's just get started with some quick agreements. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box. We will get to those at the end of the presentation. We want to get through the presentation first, and then we'll answer your questions. But absolutely, feel free to put those in the chat box. Also, at the end of the presentation, we will give you a feedback form that we would appreciate if you fill out. It'll be a link because we do appreciate honest feedback. It helps our webinars get better and better every time. So I am going to post a sign-in form. We do request that you click on that link and fill out that attendance sign-in form. That link is now posted in the chat box. And since our agency, Great Lakes Credit Union Housing Counseling Department, is approved and supported by the U.S. Department of Housing by HUD, proof of your attendance actually allows us to continue to offer these free educational webinars. So we would greatly appreciate it if you click on that link and fill it out.
As well, there will be some supplemental material that we'll be talking about during the presentation, but not necessarily going over. So if you'd like a supplemental sheet on budgeting and some other sort of resources, we're giving those out to people who have filled in their sign-in forms.
So an overview of programs and services. Firstly, Great Lakes Credit Union's Department of Housing and Financial Services propels financial health by providing exceptional financial education and counseling in the areas of credit and financial management, home ownership education, and foreclosure intervention. So just a couple of facts about us here at GLCU's HUD Housing Department. Great Lakes Credit Union is actually only one of 8 credit unions in the country that has an in-house HUD-approved counseling agency. So that's kind of a neat thing that, we're, especially for our Illinois residents, we're local and we have that HUD-approved counseling agency. Our agency received our HUD designation back in 2005. So we've been in this, for a little over 15 years. And historically, we have served anywhere between 400 and 600 households per year through our education, such as these webinars, and one-on-one counseling that we also offer. So just to give you an overview of programs and services, we offer financial education, credit counseling, rental counseling, pre-purchase counseling, post-purchase counseling, foreclosure intervention counseling. And for example, financial education and credit counseling can include going over your credit report, looking at your scores, as well as helping you set up a budget, and also helping you how to read that credit report. Sometimes people don't know what those things on the credit report mean, so we can go through that and help you read that. If you're having, if there's debt that shows up on there, we can also give you the information to negotiate with debt collectors, correct any errors on your credit report, because that can definitely affect the scores. Rental counseling and pre-purchase counseling can include doing an affordability analysis to see what payments you can afford if you're looking to rent or to buy a home. For those of you that are looking to buy a home, we also let you know of any down payment programs that may apply to your situation. There are plenty of down payment programs out there through individual banks and also through the state of Illinois. And then as far as post-purchase and foreclosure prevention, so with post-purchase counseling, we help you set up a budget for home maintenance expenses. We help you with the refinance process. Right now, the rates are really low for any of you that are looking to refinance. And then as far as foreclosure prevention, we help you identify any mortgage assistance options. Oftentimes, either the state of Illinois or your lender may have some mortgage assistance options if you're heading towards foreclosure. We help you understand the foreclosure timeline and explore options to help you keep your home or transition out of it. So on today's agenda, we have some great things coming up. We'll be going over how to create a holiday spending plan. You know, those goals, a lot of us are heading now, you know, to do our shopping, usually November, December. We'll also go over increasing cash flow so that we can make those purchases and create that holiday spending plan. We'll go over the use of technology and other resources like apps to help track our spending. And then we'll also go over how to stay on track to meet those goals.
So when we're thinking about creating a holiday spending plan, the key things are that it be personalized and realistic so that you have that foundation for successful money management during the holidays. So by personalized, I mean that you're making something specific to you and your goals. It might not do any good if you just print something off the internet or if you try to follow your family member's budget or your friend's budget, because your budget has to reflect your goals. And if it's not tied, if your goals aren't tied to your values, you're going to have a lesser chance of meeting them. The other thing it has to be is realistic. You might wish you could buy everyone on your gift list a $5,000 piece of jewelry, but if your salary and your other expenses don't support that, all the wishing in the world won't make you able to achieve the goals. So you really have to keep in mind what is reflective of your values and something that you could actually follow through on. So before you create a spending plan, the first step is to kind of identify your goals and values, which we'll talk a little bit more about in just a minute here. Basically think through, what are my goals? What do I want to achieve? You know, it could be a particular dollar amount for a gift. It could be, I want to pay off a certain debt during the holidays, or I want to use less credit or anything like that. And you want to identify your values. So another way to think about values is basically just a description of what is important to you, expressed as a trait or as a quality you have. So if you value caring, being a caring person, you might think of that through a particular way of showing someone that you care through a particular gift. Or if you value being thrifty and getting the most for your money, you might, you know, show that value by taking advantage of sales, being really out of the box with your materials that you're using, for example. You want to track income and expenses, which is where a budget or a spending plan could come in handy. You want to see what's coming in money-wise as well as what's going out. And you want to start tracking that for any patterns or any kind of obstacles or victories that come up with that. You want to really clearly assess your current situation. So you won't know what you need to do to meet your goal if you don't know where you're starting off at. So that's why a realistic budget that's true to life could be a really good thing. You definitely want to be able to make adjustments so that before you even start making your holiday spending plan, you want to know where you are, and then if you're noticing a pattern of this is not where I want to be, you know, I'm spending too much or too little on a certain thing, you want to be able to adjust it. And then you actually want to create your spending plan, and you want to do that with enough flexibility so that if your income or expenses have a change, it doesn't throw your whole goal off track. And that's part of just following the plan and adjusting it as needed. You could always check in and adjust as often as you want. This is kind of a blank table with 3 columns. One is financial goal, middle one is deadline, and the third one is what is important about this goal. So I'm going to go through one quick example. If anybody else in the chat has an example that's relevant to them that they'd like to share, I won't share your name or anything, so don't worry about that. But feel free to put something in the chat if you want to use your own example. So a financial goal could be, I want to buy my sister a really nice gift, and that costs $500. The deadline is whenever you want to buy your gift by. So if you celebrate Christmas and you're a last-minute shopper, it could be December 24th. If you celebrate another holiday or want to get your shopping done early, it could be earlier than that. And then what is important about this goal? So that's where it ties into your values. Why is it important that I want to buy my sister a gift? Well, it could be because I want to thank her for all the support she's given me over the past year, or I just really want to do something nice for her, or I promised her that I would get her a really nice gift and I want to follow through on that. What's important could be different for every single person, so there's not a right or wrong answer here. Okay, remember I talked about values a few minutes earlier? This is more in detail of what those are. So we have a list in the picture, and I won't try to read every single value off, both because I can't see writing that's that small, and because there must be 100 values on here. So if you want to, Violetta's dropped a link in the chat to a DocuSign worksheet. You can just feel free to fill that out so you can get a free copy of this personal values worksheet with examples of personal values. A suggested activity is to identify 10 and prioritize 3. I won't read 10 off, I'll just read a handful. And then you want to think through, how do these values really connect with your goals? Because like I said, if your goals don't really connect to a value that you prize and that you value highly, the chances of success are significantly decreased. You really want to have goals that connect with what's important to you broadly in life. So some examples of personal values: hard work, accuracy, achievement, courage, caring, loyalty, making a difference, wisdom, unity, uniqueness, humor. Those are all examples of values or traits that could be important to you in your life. And again, there's no right or wrong answers. Does anybody want to drop in the chat maybe a couple of their own personal values and or how they connect with their goals?
I know for me, Steph, one of the ones that sticks out when I'm, setting financial goals, especially for buying gifts, for me personally, thankfulness sticks out because I always feel like that's how I express my gratitude to family, to friends, especially around holiday time. So for me, thankfulness is a big one. So I'm wondering what everyone else, what sticks out to you from this list?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Violetta. Thankfulness is a huge one around gift giving for a lot of people. So it makes sense that, receiving gifts are some people's love language. That's probably mine if I had to pick one. But giving gifts could be other people's love language and how they express their love and, how they express that they care about people. So, yeah, thankfulness is a huge one. Here's kind of an open-ended question, and I would like people to answer this one, just maybe a couple words or a short phrase, and I'll read out a few answers. So think about what are some consequences of spending during the holidays, and this is intentionally left kind of open so that you could think of it as spending it all, spending too much, not spending enough. Basically, we want you to think through what are some particular things you have to be aware of when it comes to spending during the holidays, and what might be future consequences that might occur or things that you need to think about before you're making your spending plan.
While people put something in the chat, again, I'm going to step in because I've been in trouble before with overspending for the holidays. So I know for me, one consequence has been I overspend, and then January, I'm really tight in my budget, like super, super tight, uncomfortably tight, and it wouldn't have happened if I had created a budget and stuck to it. So for me, definitely just that uncomfortableness of just, being on a really, really tight budget, following the holidays. So I'm wondering if anyone else here has experienced the same or maybe a different consequence from spending during the holidays. And we do have someone saying a consequence is having enough to cover debt.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll talk a little bit more later in the presentation, but there are definitely some holiday quote-unquote sales that maybe might not be such great deals that are advertised as such because, the companies want you to be spending during the holidays. They kind of leverage that. Well, spending money means you care about people, right? So that way, if you kind of spend beyond your budget or beyond what you're comfortable with, and you're paying and you're trying to pay debt at the same time, that could be a consequence of then you have to balance, your holiday spending with your existing debt, or maybe you've taken on new debt during the holidays and you have to kind of balance that the rest of the year. Okay, when we're talking about goal setting, the acronym that Violetta and I and our fellow counselors use with our one-on-one clients is SMART goals. So what does SMART stand for? It's an acronym. S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for actionable, R is for realistic, T is for time-bound or time-based. So we have an example here. The first column of the table showcases the words I just went over. The second column of the table gives examples of a question for each letter that you could ask yourself to make sure that you're staying on track. And then the third column is an example. So I'm just going to go through this example. You could just think to yourself or put in the chat if you'd like a particular SMART goal that you have, or a question about making SMART goals if you have it, but that's something you can just think to yourself too. So when we're thinking about specific, how do we know a goal is specific? You want a specific step or something that can be measured, something that matters to you. So rather than, I want to be rich, I mean, that's a great goal, but it's not very specific. So in the example, maybe your goal is holiday gifts for family and friends. Okay, that's a goal. That's something you can achieve. You want it to be measurable. So how much do you need to feel like you have the budget for the gifts that you want? So the example here is $500 because they calculate $40 per family member and $20 for each friend, and they have 8 family members and 9 friends. So you can see how they got their $500 goal. What kind of action will you take to get there? That's actionable. So for this one, how much do you need to save per week or per month, if that's how you prefer to do it, to get to your goal of $500? So an example of how you might get there is you might be able to increase your income by $150 each week by signing up for things like Uber and selling extra items. You might also be able to decrease your expenses by $200 by freezing your gym membership and purchasing generic groceries rather than name brand. Again, this isn't to say you have to do exactly what this example does. You just need to be thinking through what kind of actions make sense for me to take and are realistic, which is the next letter R, to take. So when you're thinking through, is something realistic? Is it something achievable given your existing cash flow and the dollar amount needed and your desired deadline? So that's something that you have to decide on your own. For this person, they said yes. Time-bound basically says, when is your deadline? This person looks like a last-minute Christmas shopper, and they said the 24th. But again, you can set your own deadline based on your priorities and the holidays that you celebrate.
Okay, so tracking income. And then I do just want to remind you, if you fill out that registration attendance form, you will get a copy of this worksheet. And actually, it comes in a little booklet with some other informational pages on there. But basically, you want to keep track of your cash flow. So a worksheet like this will have you track your income from your jobs, if you're getting a housing subsidy or SNAP, anything that's helping towards your income. And then also you're going to want to subtract your weekly expenses. And again, there's examples given here, like, cell phone, debt payments, if you go to eat out or even takeout, education, childcare. So what you'll do is you'll determine your net monthly income, adding everything that's coming in. And again, we have examples on the worksheet, and then subtracting the expenses from the worksheet. And that'll give you a basis for tracking your income. So what income am I tracking? You might be asking yourself. There are 4 main types of expenses. So for example, there's regular fixed expenses. Those are amounts that never change or that always pretty much stay the same. So that would be, for example, your rent, your mortgage, your car insurance, your car payment, any debt payments, for example. So like car payment, what else are there? Any other debts that stay the same amount. Regular variable expenses would be groceries. I mean, for a lot of us, it kind of changes week to week. It might be 100 one week, $78 the next week. So it's a regular expense, but it changes. Utilities can also be variable, especially if you don't have them on that budget payment plan where it's the same payments every month. Entertainment, if you're the type of person that, goes to the movies every week or does outside activities on a regular basis, that would be a regular expense, but variable. It's not the same amount. Then we talk about irregular expected expenses. So these would be things that don't happen on like a weekly or monthly basis. They're every once in a while, but you're going to have to pay for it. So for example, car maintenance, having the oil changed on your car. For some of us, it's every 3 months, every 6 months. Your annual insurance premiums, if you pay those annually, again, it's a once a year thing. Car registration is also a once a year thing. So they're coming. It's just not something that you pay like on a weekly or monthly basis. Irregular unexpected expenses usually refer in general to emergencies. So things that you're not expecting, you're not planning for, an unexpected hospital bill, you slip and you break an arm, or your car breaks down, it's running fine and then it breaks down on you. Your eyeglasses get broken. Maybe you're playing with your kid, they throw a football and it breaks your glasses. So things that you're not expecting generally, again, for the most part, I see those as emergencies. So those are the 4 types of expenses you'll want to track. And how do you track those? You can track those by collecting bills. So when you get the bills in the mail, collect those. When you're out and about, for example, purchasing your groceries, other things, collect the receipts, gather information on irregular expected expenses and turn them into monthly amounts. So again, for example, that annual car registration, I know it's more than 120, but just to make it easy, let's say it's 120 a year. Turn it into a monthly expense. So that way you budget it into your budget. So it would be $10 a month. So you can turn those into monthly amounts. If you're a pen and paper person like me, you can use a notebook to write expenditures. I like using pen and paper, but it's important to have that down. If you don't like pen and paper, that's okay. You can also use an online personal financial management system. So I also use Mint. I just need to budget everywhere. But there are apps like Mint that are free that let you put in your information so you can budget online. And, you click on your phone, open the app, and, put in all your expenses so it keeps you on track. Review your bank and credit card statements and calculate a monthly average. That's also very helpful because sometimes even after collecting bills and receipts, there's things on our bank and credit card statements that we may have missed. So it's important to get those and calculate that monthly average. And then also estimate any expenses you might be unable to track. For example, for me, eyeglasses, the amount seems to change every year, even with insurance. But I kind of have an idea of how much I might be spending to replace those glasses every year. So assessing your current financial situation. So basically, once you have all your financial information, you're going to analyze your bottom line. And again, this is very similar to the other worksheet we saw. So you're going to have your total monthly income, including, again, any SNAP benefits, if you have a second job, if friends or family are helping you out, anything that's coming in on a regular basis, you're going to list that. Take out the monthly regular expenses that you've calculated. Again, usually, rent, income, rent, groceries, mortgage. And then once you've paid all your bills, whatever's left over is your discretionary income. So that is the money that's left over that you can either put in your savings account, you can save it, or you can spend it on maybe things you've wanted and they're not necessarily needs, but you want them. So that's called discretionary income. So again, total monthly income, subtract everything you pay on a monthly basis, all your bills, and then what's left over is your discretionary income. And then, okay, so looking at the big picture, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how satisfied are you with your financial behaviors? So for example, a 10, and again, it's different for everyone, but a 10 may look like I'm assessing my income on a weekly basis, and I'm satisfied with my progress. A 1 for someone may be, I'm tracking my spending and I'm overspending on things I don't need. I'm not quite happy with it. How much of your income do you spend on essentials, things you need, a roof over your head, nutrition? Lifestyles would be, things that you like, maybe nice clothes, nice shoes. You don't necessarily need fancy shoes, but you like them, part of your lifestyle. And then how much are you basically putting aside for your goals, things that you want? Maybe you want to buy a car, or it might be something on a smaller scale. You've been, for girls, for me, looking at a purse that you want, and you're setting aside money for that goal. Look at what financial behaviors are working for you. For example, some of you may be saying, well, I already use Mint, and that actually works for me. That's a financial behavior that works for me. Or I'm using AutoSave, where I've set up my checking account to withdraw money into my savings on a regular basis, and that's working for me. Maybe you have an accountability partner, someone, a spouse, a friend, a family member who's keeping you on track when you go out there. Maybe they're saying, hey, do you really need to get that? So look to see what behaviors are working for you. What changes do you need to make to meet your holiday goals? It's individualized for every person. The changes you make aren't going to be the same for everyone across the board. But think about that. What changes would you need to make? What would be the easiest thing to change, the most important, and the most impactful that would make the biggest impact? For some people, the easiest thing to change, I always like to give this example, is giving up Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, where a person may say, well, you know what, for the month of November, I can just make my coffee at home and take it to work. So that may be the easiest. For someone else, the most impactful might be maybe they don't watch enough TV, so they give up cable. And that's, a big bill, makes a big impact on their budget. And how supported are your financial goals and priorities by your financial behaviors? So you have your financial goals. Okay, I want to save $200 for the holidays to buy my friends and family gifts. Are your behaviors supporting that? So are you setting aside the money? Are you cutting down on expenses, or do you find that you're still shopping the same and still not having enough to save, at the end of the week or the month to support that goal? So that's another important question to ask yourself.
When we're thinking about how you actually meet the goals that you set, one of the things that you can do is try to maximize your income, because there are two main things that you could do. One is maximizing income, the other is decreasing expenses. I'll talk a little bit about decreasing expenses in the next couple of slides. And you can do both at once. It doesn't have to be an either or thing. So if you're looking at ways to maximize your income, here are some ideas, although if any of you listening have others, I'd be happy if you drop them into the chat and then we can read them out. But here are some examples of ideas that we discuss with our one-on-one counseling clients. If you have a special talent or a passion, you can monetize it. So a lot of my friends from college now do part-time tutoring or babysitting if you're good with children, or if you play a musical instrument, you could teach lessons or art lessons or writing lessons or editing. And you can do a lot of this over Zoom too. You don't even have to necessarily leave your house now, which is a bonus. You can do gigs or tasks like Instacart, other grocery shopping, Craigslist, TaskRabbit, Uber Eats, Lyft driving, anything like that. The flexibility of that is a really cool added bonus if you want to set your own hours, or if you only have so many hours in the week. You don't have to commit to it like you would a full-time job or even a part-time job. You could just do it when you feel like it for a little bit of added income. You could freelance on Upwork or Fiverr if you're a design professional, or if you have skills in editing, graphic design, anything like that. Being a virtual assistant even. If you have a lot of unwanted items, you can sell them via Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Mercari. I'm sure there are other sites where you can sell your unwanted clothing or personal items. If you have some sort of amenities that you don't always use, you can rent them out, such as your car, a room if you want to do an Airbnb. If you own a second property, you can rent it out. You can either do an Airbnb or be a small landlord. If you have a sporting vehicle or other equipment, you could rent that out. If you're really crafty and kind of dedicated to that, you can start a small business or even like a consulting business like some of my friends do. That would be more of a medium to long-term goal that you'd need to put a little bit of work into up front. But if that's something you really want to pursue and you really want that flexibility to set your own hours and take the clients you want, that could be an idea.
For some of the things, especially like using a special talent over Zoom, you don't have to be a certain age. I know for some of these you might have to, be old enough to drive and other things, but I just wanted to give a quick example. One of my friends has a daughter who's 13, phenomenal piano player, and she gives lessons over Zoom, and she makes a pretty good, a decent amount for a kid that age that goes into her savings. And it's an easy way for her to use her talent and make money at it. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. There's not necessarily an element of gatekeeping. If you have something you want to monetize and people are willing to pay for it, go ahead. You don't have to be a certain level of good, or you don't have to be a certain level of established necessarily. Some of the best bakers I know started their businesses out of their homes. Now we're going to talk about reducing expenses a little bit. And if you need more help with this, or even with any of the topics discussed here, you're welcome to enter one-on-one counseling with one of us counselors. We'll give our contact information at the end of the presentation here. So here we have a picture of a couple of credit cards, and we have ways to reduce expenses. So some common ways that people rack up expenses without necessarily thinking about it. You want to review and evaluate all the subscriptions you have. So if you have Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney, and Amazon Fire Stick, and something else, you want to evaluate, okay, do I need and use, or do I want and use all of these subscriptions? And if you do, and those are valuable to you, then keep them. But if you're like, I have an Audible and I don't really listen to audiobooks, maybe consider getting rid of it, or consider temporarily getting rid of it if there's a specific holiday goal you want to meet. Because that's one of the things that I like to stress to my clients when we're talking about reducing expenses. Some of them get a little uneasy thinking that they have to reduce their expenses forever and ever, and most of the time that's not true. Most of the time it's like, oh, if I can just cut back on groceries for the next couple of months, that will give me the money to pay off a certain debt, or that will give me the money to buy a particular gift for someone or something like that. So it can be temporary adjustments. Don't necessarily think that it has to be for the rest of your life. Violetta mentioned this, but you can consider budget billing on utilities or, utilities are most common, I think, for budget billing. So what that does is it takes your variable utility expenses, the way that heat is going to be higher, amount during the winter and lower during the summer, and it evens them out. So instead of having, a $50 heat bill in June and a $200 heat bill in December, it just averages them out so that maybe you have like a $60 or $70 heat bill every month. So that way it's taking out that variability. You want to review your fixed expenses, like your rent and your car loans or your mortgage or anything else, because with certain things you might be able to either get a deal or refinance them. If you have a lot of equity in your auto or your home and you have strong credit, refinancing either your auto or home loan might be an option for you, especially with mortgage rates still being fairly low. That's something you might want to look into. With a fixed expense like rent, there might not be too much flexibility there, but I know some landlords give discounts for the first few months if you renew a lease or if you're a new tenant with like a strong income and credit score. So there can be some flexibility there. Here are some ways to reduce expenses kind of specific to holiday gifts. You can share a larger gift, and this is what my sister and I do for our parents because neither one of us has a ton of disposable income to spend on something really lavish, and of course we love our parents and we want to show them that. So what we'll often do is split a larger gift. Last year or the year before, we got my mom a pizza stone because she loves to cook. So that worked out well for us. Another thing you can do if you have a larger group of friends or family is do a gift exchange. I did this with my college friends because there was quite a group of us, and of course none of us being broke college students had a ton of disposable income to spend on a big gift for everybody. So we set up a gift exchange. We did the secret snowflake thing where you buy one small gift for just one person and it's a surprise, and that's part of, the happiness of it. You could always, if you're a list maker, you can make a list and check it twice, Christmas pun. You can say, okay, here are all the people I want to buy for. Here are, all the gifts that they might want. What I actually do with my friends and loved ones is I say, okay, can you think of 2 or 3 gifts that you might want and tell me what they are? So that way it's somewhat a surprise because they don't know which of their options that I'm picking, but then I know I can kind of plan, okay, the most expensive of their options is this one, the least expensive is this one. So it strikes a nice balance between being a complete surprise and me not feeling overwhelmed by not knowing what I'm getting into. If you're the kind of person that values experiences or giving the gift of quality time or acts of service, you can always say your gift is, I'm going to, take my mom out to lunch today, or take my child out to the park. That doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot. Some of it can be free if you're like in a public park just hanging out. But it still communicates that you care because there's that quality time aspect. Some of the things that I noticed people like younger children do sometimes is they make little coupon books for their parents, like this coupon is good for 1 hug or 1 hour together where we can talk or something, and that's free and it's still really touching. You can give homemade or thoughtful gifts. One of my friends in college made me some homemade cookie butter. It was really, really good. If you're a cook or a crafty person, or Supplies don't necessarily have to cost a lot of money, and, you can show that you put time and care into it, and it's the effort that counts. So I'm sure people are touched a lot by handmade or thoughtful gifts.
And I just actually wanted to add to what Steph was talking about in the previous slide. One of my friends always gets me, she makes cards just as a hobby, like greeting cards, and those are among my favorite gifts because I can always use them, especially when, I go to a birthday party and I'm out of cards. I always take out the stack that she makes for me to use, and I love them. So really, it's just a matter of just kind of, for homemade gifts, there's so many ways to make those. But getting now to using technology and other resources, when you're shopping, use apps that can save you money, like Honey, and then we'll talk about Rakuten in a bit. My son downloaded the Honey browser to his computer, and so basically what it does, when you go to a website to shop for something, the Honey browser searches for coupons that may apply to that product you're buying. So look at apps like that. Beware of sales. So Steph mentioned this earlier too. Sometimes around the holidays, stores will raise the price on a product and then put it on sale, so it's not really a bargain. Beware of those. Just be, cautious with those. And then while you're at the store, my son, again, does this all the time. I taught him well. Check prices on Amazon. Walmart and eBay, a lot of retailers like Target and Best Buy, they'll match those prices. I know my son, when he's been at Best Buy looking at a video game, he'll go on Amazon, and if he finds it cheaper, he'll show the cashier, and they honor the price. So while you're shopping, go online on your phone, check Amazon, Walmart, eBay, see what the prices are, and if they're cheaper, see if the store will match it. Consider cashback programs like Rakuten and Ibotta. Those are programs that basically when you shop online, if you go through their link, they give you a percentage back of that purchase. Rakuten and RetailMeNot apps also offer cash back for in-store purchases, but double check on those. I know with the pandemic, sometimes the deals change with the apps, but definitely look at cashback programs. Use apps like Mint, GLCU, we have our own money manager app, or you need a budget app to keep you on track of your spending. A lot of times, your own financial institution, if you bank with someone else, they'll have like a tracking, I don't want to call it an app, but like a tracking feature in there that you can use. So definitely take advantage of those to track your spending. And then I just wanted to add here, someone did say they give their adult children a gift card on Thanksgiving, and they bring it to choose a gift they choose to show the person on Christmas, so that way they get what they want. So that's a very good idea, very creative. And then getting back to utilizing financial savings products, you can try a holiday savings account. Some banks and credit unions will have it listed as like Christmas Club or Holiday Savings Club. And basically with those, you deposit money in throughout the year and you can't withdraw it until a certain date. Sometimes it's like a date in November. Otherwise, you'll incur a penalty. So that kind of keeps you accountable because you can't take that money out until a certain date. So look into those. Look into autosave. We mentioned that. That would be where, and again, a lot of banks offer these features where you can set up a recurring withdrawal from your checking into your savings account. I do that. It's something little. I think I do like $10 a week that automatically comes out of my checking account and into savings, and I don't miss it, and that way I don't spend it. You can look into holiday loans. A lot of times, again, banks, financial institutions, credit unions will have holiday loans available. Those can be a possibility, but please just consider the interest rates and fees to make sure that they're worth your while within your budget. Because if the interest rates and fees are really high, it may not be the best choice, but they are there. With credit cards, if you're a credit card shopper, you pay your credit card on time, use your credit card that's going to offer you rewards or cash back. So you have something coming back into your budget for using that credit card. And again, just like the loans, make sure you're paying those credit cards on time so that you're not incurring those interest rates or fees. Another thing you can do is a prepaid card. With those, you might see them at Walgreens, Target. There are those visas that you take to the register and you load them with a certain amount, $20, $50. The nice thing about that is that you can't overspend. You can only spend whatever you loaded on that prepaid card. So again, it keeps you on track, keeps you accountable. So that's another way to utilize financial products. And then reducing debt, let's remember that debts are typically part of regular fixed expenses. So when we're talking about debt, again, and I know we're probably going to turn blue in the face telling you, but generally regular fixed expenses, your rent, mortgage, car payment, credit card payments, sometimes those are like a regular amount. Remember that a debt is an obligation. So it's something that you owe someone or, somewhere that you have to pay back. Add up what you owe. We've been over this. Add up everything you owe, and then figure out the reason behind the decisions and decide how many credit cards you really need. Do you need 10 credit cards, or is that putting you in a position where you're overspending because you're using all of them? Can you get by with 5 credit cards or 3 credit cards? So make sure you're figuring out those reasons and then really decide how many credit cards you really need. So again, going on with reducing debt, pay cash for everything until your debts are paid off. It's hard to overspend when you only carry cash in your wallet, and once you spend it, that's it. There's no more spending. So that's a good tip that I sometimes use when I find that I'm overspending on credit cards. I'm like, nope, we're going to go to cash for the next month and, keep me accountable. Establish or maintain savings. It can be, at a credit union, a bank. You can open a savings account, or if you're not comfortable, a savings jar. And it doesn't have to be a huge amount. Some people feel like, well, if I put in $5 every week, it's not going to add up. It will add up. So whatever, if you have money left over at the end of the week from shopping, put it in a jar. Establish that, that little savings jar. Automate bill paying to be on time. So again, if you are banking with a bank or credit union, those bank accounts, the checking bank accounts, have features where you can put in your credit card information or your utility information and then the date that it's due, and it'll take it automatically out of your checking account and pay that bill. So that way you're not paying late fees or extra interest. So take advantage of that from your bank. Automate, bill paying to be on time. In your spending, look for items you can give up temporarily. Different for everyone. I have people who are like, I don't really watch TV. I can give up cable or Disney Plus for a few months, and they don't miss it. And, they resubscribe, once they've met their goal. Other people, it's, again, giving up that coffee or giving up eating out. They'll take their lunch from home. So it's not a forever. It's a temporary thing until you reach your goal. Only take on debts that you can pay back comfortably. When looking at your spending, when you're making those purchases, make sure that it's something that you're going to feel comfortable paying back, that's not going to leave you stretched at the end of the month or maybe even underwater where you don't have enough money left at the end of the month. So only take on those debts that you can pay back comfortably.
And here are some questions you can ask yourself to kind of make sure that you're on track. How is your plan working? Is it working for you? Are your goals still meaningful to you? If you live with other household members that are also trying to follow a spending plan, are they able to follow your plan? How are they finding it's working for them? Are their goals connected to their values? Are there costs that are consistently off from what's planned? If you plan to spend $50 on something and find you're consistently spending $100, why might that be? What could you do to either adjust your goal or adjust your spending? Or both. If you're the kind of person that likes to track their progress, how much progress are you making toward reaching your goal? Is that on track with the original deadline you set, or do you need to adjust it? Some things that could just make it easier, just real briefly, because I know we only have a few minutes left. Knowing when bills are due is really helpful because then you don't pay them late. Automating them, as Violetta said earlier, is one big way that a lot of our clients and myself to can think of to know when our bills are due and not have to worry about keeping track of a million deadlines. If you're tempted by having money, a balance sitting in a particular account, you can open separate accounts. A lot of financial institutions have incentives where you can open a holiday saving account where it's a certificate of deposit. You know, you're actually rewarded with extra money if you don't make withdrawals for the period, 6 months, a year, whatever. Visual and written reminders of your goals can be helpful. So that way, if you're tempted to kind of slip up, you can remind yourself, like, hey, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. You can carry cash if you have a particular daily budget you want to stick to, because once your cash is gone, it's gone. If you're listening to this presentation and you're thinking, okay, my difficulties are a little bit more intense than just, making a few changes here and there, you can get help one-on-one free from a HUD certified financial counselor at GLCU, and I will put up our contact information. All right, here it is. I'll read it out. I will go through the end of the presentation and then come back to this and then leave it up so that y'all can write down if you want to get in touch with us. So Violetta just dropped in the link, our link on our website to schedule a screening. What a screening is, it's a brief 20 to 30 minute introductory call where you reserve a time on the calendar of a housing counselor, and at that time the counselor will call you and kind of introduce ourselves and get to know more about you and your goals, tell you a little bit about our intake process for counseling, and make sure you meet our requirements. Generally, if you're an Illinois or Wisconsin resident who's over the age of 18, you would meet requirements, but there is intake information that we do need, so we go over that. You can call us by phone. The general department number is 224-252-2620. That way you can either request a call back, leave a message, or if a counselor is free at that time, they'll pick up the phone and work with you. Or you can email us, housing, HOUSING, at glcu.org. Okay, we're going to open it up for questions for maybe about 5 to 7 minutes because we did get started a little bit after 11. The other thing I wanted to draw attention to was, Violetta, if you could put both the intake and the feedback form into the chat for anybody who joined late or missed it. We haven't shared the feedback form yet, but you can do that. And I'll also reshare the intake form. So as a reminder, that intake form is really important for us to be able to show HUD, these are the clients we're serving. This is how many people attended our webinar. So it's really important for us, and you also get access to supplementary materials like the cash flow budget sheet we went over earlier if you turn in your intake. The feedback form is a separate form, also done through DocuSign. That really benefits us because we know what worked for you in this presentation, what didn't work for you, what other topics might you be interested in, what did you feel like you learned from this webinar? Did you feel like you learned a lot? Were you bored? Were you excited? We don't know any of this unless you tell us via that form. If you're called in, I would just recommend emailing the housing counseling email or calling that number and just telling whoever picks up or telling us by email that you want a feedback form or an intake form, and we'll get it to you. So I think someone asked, can they have the links by email? I think if you're logged in, you should just be able to click the links for the intake and the feedback. But if you're still having trouble, I will note it down to email out. But if you're able to join via the browser and see the chat, you could just fill out the forms by clicking the links.
Just to let everyone know, I did repost that attendance intake link and then the feedback form link. So you should be able to click on it if you're logged in. I know some of you are calling in, so we can send those out. But if you are logged into the presentations, you should be able to click on it, and then it'll take you to those sites, to the feedback and then the attendance form. And then just to let everyone know that's here today, our services for HUD housing counseling and financial counseling are free. The only service that does have a fee is for pre-purchase. If you do qualify for down payment, there's a course that needs to be taken that's not covered by us. But other than that, all the other services are free, and it's something that we do enjoy providing to the community.
Okay, I'm going to give it 1 or 2 more minutes, but if I'm not seeing questions, we can just end here. What I can do is I have the emails of the people who registered using the Eventbrite, so I can just send out both the intake and feedback forms out to the various emails, and you can do them that way. If you've already done them via the chat link, you don't have to do them again. That should go through fine. It goes through to our manager. So it should be fine either way, but if you'd prefer them over email, we can for sure do that. So I'm going to give it maybe 1 more minute, and then we're going to wrap up. I do want to say happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to join us. We really appreciate having everyone here and participating.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for taking your time out on a Saturday morning to join us for this webinar. We really appreciate your attendance and your participation.